So as we started right off, we would like to take the opportunity and introduce our coordinating committee members and update you about new coordinating committee members that joined over the course of the year. We would like to have a quick look back at 2024, what happened and how you can relive what happened. And then most of all, and that is the end of the presentation then as well. So we want to have a look out towards 2025 and introduce a project idea that we as a CoP would like to put forward. And we want to gauge interest and thoughts and all that from you as our community members. That's kind of what we had planned. We'll be finished within the hour for sure. And I'll try to switch off the presentation as soon as possible. I just want to give you a bit of an overview for now. Sorry, there's still people coming. So some of our coordinating committee members could join today, who couldn't join, unfortunately, or at least I don't think that Marina is in the list, is Marina, because she's already on holidays. Marina is a young Indigenous leader from British Columbia in Canada, and we're very glad of working with her. We have equally Melanie Harding as well, who works with Indigenous communities in the Northwest Territories of Canada. Sorry. There is both on the call, Valentina and Gustavo, who introduced themselves already. I'm very glad to have on board. There is from Cameroon, Anne. In Cameroon, it's at the moment midnight, so not a convenient time for them to call in. And we have a new coordinating committee member that stepped up over the course of the year, Martin Andemil. He's based in Tanzania and has vast experience with the conservation standards and facilitating the conservation standards with communities in Africa. From Asia, supporting Lavanita, we got Natalino Babo. He's based on Timor-Leste. Lavanita in Kota Kinabalu. And in Australia, we have on the west coast, Daniel Oates, an Indigenous man from the Kimberley region. And on the other side, we have a representative. We have Joanne. Joanne works with Bush Heritage, with Indigenous communities, in particular in Queensland, but across large parts of Australia. And yeah, those are the wonderful people that I'm glad to work with and that are instrumental in pushing things along and keeping the community of practice ticking over. So I'm very glad, and I would like as well to say a big thank you to all of those guys for all their hard effort. And there is me in Melbourne trying to coordinate between everyone and trying to keep the ball rolling. I'm really quick with that one. We all know that the purpose of the community of practice is to increase access for Indigenous people to planning tools like the conservation standards to foster more increased community-led conservation. So we want to make sure that in this whole conservation world, Indigenous people have a fair say and are involved from the very beginning through meaningful tools. So we want to ensure that Indigenous people lead activities on their lands and waters and support that through planning, coaching, knowledge sharing, and innovation. And we try to do our best to encourage the use of the conservation standards and their adaptations in particular to ensure we have better environmental, cultural, and social outcomes amongst Indigenous people and local communities. We got coordinating committee members. I'm me who's trying to tick it over. We got a foundation and we got a network charter that we will show you in a second. We have a strategic plan that helps to keep us on track. And we are set up as a representative committee trying to get representation from all the major regions. There is an opportunity I would like to point out to everyone on the call who may be from the region, and we've been trying to get better representation for Pacific Island nations who cover a large area of this planet, but who are at the moment underrepresented. So if you are, or you know of somebody from the Pacific Island nation that you think should be involved and who could contribute and would be interested in contributing to the COP, please tap him on the shoulder, let him know, and get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, that's been us. And to stop me talking and giving you a chance, I just want to do as a last thing, look back at what happened in 2024 for us, because it was a busy year. And thanks to all the efforts from everyone in the COP, we were able to do a lot of work around building our foundations. We revised and updated our strategic plan, a plan for a plan, but it's important for us to have it because it helps us decide and put us on track to ensure that we're doing the things that are necessary and we're not getting sidelined into things that we shouldn't be doing. That strategic plan, if you go to our homepage, you can download a copy. And we equally, and I mentioned that beforehand when we talked about the charter, we updated a charter document that outlines our role, who we are, how we engage, and how we deal, how we work together. Again, for anyone who is interested, a copy of that charter can be downloaded from our homepage as well. And we started as a committee talk towards and step towards engaging a fiscal sponsor so that we're set up for the future to be able to undertake more work, because a lot of the work that we're currently doing and how we're operating is really solely based on the efforts of individuals, but we're trying to create a platform as well more broadly for the network, for the COP. Those are all kind of a discrete tasks that happened over the year when we had a chance to update certain aspects, and then when we came together and discussed and finalized things. We spend, aside from this foundational work, a fair bit of our time and effort on providing opportunities to meet remotely. We totally acknowledge that it would be lovely to meet in person, but the reality is, with the resources we have, webinars are the most convenient way for us to come together. We did an intro to the COP webinar in May to kick things off and to give people a chance to come together. It's 28 people there. In August, a colleague of ours, Daniel Wolf-Watts, who works with a university in Sweden and also with a local council, presented on a case study that he developed a bit earlier, and it looked at how the conservation standards helped up their balancing sustainable tourism development with indigenous reindeer herding. We had 24 people attend that one. And then Valentina, together with her two colleagues, Carolina and Gabriela, offered in September a webinar that looked at transnational indigenous conservation in the Ecuador and Colombia basin. And for that, we had 58 people attend. So first of all, thanks to everyone who offered a webinar, and a call out to everyone in the community who is interested to contribute a webinar. We're more than happy to help and assist you with developing it and getting it off the ground and getting it organized. Please feel free to present on relevant topics and share ideas with us. All those webinars are as well, similar to this call, are recorded and shared through our YouTube channel. So there's always an opportunity for those who cannot join a webinar on time to look at a recording. And we've been doing a fair bit of work trying to grow our community and grow our presence. We are using LinkedIn, increased our followership there, and we're reaching more people with our messages. Our email listserv has been growing as well over the year. We have a 30% increase compared to the 1st of January. And as I mentioned earlier on, we have as well launched a YouTube channel this year. It has only very little subscribers. It has only very little viewers. What is suggests probably it is not the greatest of communication tools, but it is a low cost thing as well. For us more to archive our webinars and make them accessible. So it's not a big thing, but for us, I guess, it's important that the tools that we use to communicate and to reach out are effective, because this is for a network a core thing, that we provide networking capacity, I guess, and can share information. But that's really in a nutshell only what happened in 2025. More importantly, and the reason why we wanted to find a time this year to talk to you is we want to share some thinking with you about a new project we would like to propose for 2025. And that is about looking at revising, revamping, developing new training resources that look more broadly at the conservation standards through an Indigenous lens. As I said, this is very early on. The idea is to get it in people's heads and minds and to be able to provide feedback in time. We totally appreciate that often planning happens before and people know about it later. We're trying to reverse that as much as possible. And so all the things we're talking about here are thoughts and conversations that were had. None of it is set in stone, and everything is kind of there to be discussed, to considered, and to help us come up with a good way forward. So the background is most of you would know we've done for about a 2-year period a project. The abbreviation was SILK, that looked at how can we scale Indigenous-led conservation with the help of the conservation standards. And for that project, we did questionnaires, online surveys, interviews with people in different regions who are heavily involved in using the conservation standards with Indigenous people to help us better understand how growth happened and equally what was difficult or hindered growth of Indigenous-led conservation. And one of the outputs, like from our online surveys, is kind of like what are key criteria for that people decide or consider when choosing a planning approach. And in this case, the planning approach asked being the conservation standards. This is the graph is a weighted graph, so it means it's not 5.07 people that answered. This is the weighted average and that people gave in their answer, but ownership of the planning process and good participatory engagement tools that work in the region have been highlighted as a key. While not with a very high weight, still important to have to utilize locally relevant language and to have simple planning tools that can allow to explore complex issues. Those three standout criteria for using a planning approach like the conservation standards, combined with requests that we receive over the course of the year from different regions, where people were asking us, hey, we want to do training here, we want to do training there, brought us to the point that we needed to come up with a way that is a good way forward to support training. Preferably, that would be for us trying to support more regional adaptations. Adaptations like healthy country planning, healthy territory planning, Malama Ike Kai, or planning for future. that happen in other regions already, and there is many more regions who show an interest. We haven't been really able over the course of the year to find the support to do this in a meaningful way. But what we kind of, what that gotten us to the point to consider what is feasible, and probably more feasible than supporting multiple regional adaptations with a very specific focus. As a network, we can look at providing more generic guidance on how we can better use the conservation standards through an indigenous lens and look collectively across all the experiences that different groups and different regions in the world had so far. And with that background, we looked at, that's why I refer to the strategic plan. Hey, is that actually something we should be considering doing? And there are two specific aspects of our strategic plan that deal with the aspect of tools and training. And there are three really core activities for CCNet and more broadly, but for the CoP in particular, that align very closely with this topic of developing or trying to support the development of those training materials. And with those boxes ticked, we thought like, okay, how could that look like? And this is part of this conversation, what we would like to put forward and where we would like to gauge your interest and your thoughts and get some first ideas from the community. We would like to develop training materials that look at the adaptive management cycle through an indigenous lens. We want through that provide insights in how those adaptive management phases are seen through different perspectives from different regions, because there are regional differences most likely, as much as there are similarities. We want to provide a way that we can link practitioners with simple and trusted tools that help facilitate those phases and that help you engage with communities in a meaningful way. There is a huge number of things that is already existing within the conservation standards world, but there's equally great tools out there that are still sitting more on the outside that are valid, valuable, and worthwhile to consider. So we want to kind of use this process as doing an audit of all the things that are there and see how they can be used in a concerted effort. And we want to kind of provide some of that contextual capacity of navigating between how a group sees things and how that relates to the conservation standards, and how you can navigate between the place-based aspect and the not so place-based aspect, the general standards aspect. To do those things, there are some underlying assumptions we should consider. And again, this is something for us to talk about, whether we share those assumptions. But this is only possible when we first of all have a general agreement about the different steps and the phases of adaptive management. This is what brings us together as conservation standards practitioners in CCNet, that we kind of believe in the structure of the conservation standards, because that structure is really important. But that structure is foremost important, what we've seen from experiences in the world on the back end of the planning process. To ensure that we follow the conservation standards and to use the strengths of the conservation standards is important for funders, for project managers, for people in the background. And that it is a trusted tool that provides great ability to prioritize conservation, identify and prioritize conservation strategies. That's all really important. But in the back end in particular, in the front end, it is really important that it is regionally relevant and empowering the community. So this is kind of, those are three assumptions to consider when doing this project. If we have a lot of disagreement about assumptions, we need to adjust equally what we're doing. But this is something for discussion. And how we kind of think we could go about it. as I said, this is only a very early conversation. Nothing is set in stone. But over the last few months, we heard from the Center for Wildlife Studies that there is interest in offering an online training course, and this could be the reason for us and the timeline to get involved in this and to develop those materials. Again, nothing has been agreed upon, signed, or done. This is a conversation for now. And what we thought about how we can go about doing this work is it's a combination of a desktop research of existing materials. There is a lot out there already, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel once everything is collated. But there is equally the need to develop certain aspects more and stronger and ensure that we have a diversity of views on those things where the views are probably too limited still. We want to take an inclusive approach. We want to engage with those who are part of our community. We are part of a broader network, which is CCNet. So we want to ensure we have this relevant expertise from all the other CCNet coaches that operate globally or that operate very much regionally. And we want to ensure that we engage with IPLC organization and networks that work already in a similar space to see where there are synergies and where to explore how we can ensure that we have good input. It would be a core working team that engages with networks or the community or the outside, the periphery more broadly to test, adapt, and trial materials. So it is a conversation between a small block of people and the broader network. And those are, again, only conversation starters for our workshop exercise in a second. We should think about like what structure we should take. It suggests to us, believing in the conservation standards, that we should consider the steps of the conservation standards to provide the overarching structure. But again, something for your input. Everything that comes out of this project, we want to ensure this is developed under Creative Commons license, so everyone is able to share, use, and modify to be in the spirit of the conservation standards. And based on what we've experienced with healthy country planning in Australia, some of the outputs that we might need to create a training course are presentations, some sort of a compendium, like a document that has all the tools, exercises for the training, because we know as coaches that learning by doing and using a relevant example to exercise our skills is an important way of teaching the conservation standards, and having some sort of a handout, handbook, and whatever else you think is needed. This has been way too long for me to talk, and with that, I want to only facilitate your conversations. I have from here developed or just gotten 3 online whiteboards for all of you to talk, to type, whichever way you prefer. We want to introduce the idea with this presentation and provide opportunity for discussion. We want to see, engage who might be interested in participating and supporting and collaborating, and who thinks this is something we should engage in. And we would equally like to get an idea before we shape the process and the project, to get your ideas about process and outputs to ensure we're not getting off on some tangents. And that gives us then, as the CoP, enough input to come up with, I guess, a proposal and a plan. And that is really the end of my presentation, and I'll switch to the whiteboards and let you guys reflect and share your thoughts and your ideas, please. So maybe as a conservation starter for all of you, you should have access on this whiteboard to do anything you would want to do. A first thing to start our conversation is I would like to gauge your general thoughts about this. Is this what we're suggesting a good idea? Do you think that's worthwhile doing? Do you have really big concerns about it and you want us to be careful about certain aspects? You can use the green post-it notes to type things down if you have comments about it, like things we should consider. On the side, you can see many more if you need more of them. And there is a little cluster of stars. If you just want to vote, if you don't really have a comment you want to share, but you just want to express your feeling, you can just use one of the stars and drag it into either the green side or the red side. And with that, over to you. Can I maybe, because the silence is oppressing, ask one of our coordinating committee members maybe to share their thoughts, what they think, how they feel about it, to maybe break down the barrier of people feeling too shy to talk?
Frank, I think everyone is writing down their pros or cons or something else in the whiteboard, hence the silence.
Yes, and if not everyone knows, if you see it very small, you can use your trackpad to make it bigger, like you would on your phone. So bigger and smaller. Yes, exactly like that.
Cool. I haven't used a whiteboard like this. It always went to mural or something, so you had to give them a link somewhere else. I didn't know that Zoom had gained this functionality.
It's awesome,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, my first time using that functionality as well. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
when we zoom in and out, are we zooming in and out for everybody?
No, you only do that on your whiteboard. It works exactly as all the other solutions, only that it's integrated.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can only, from a facilitator side, can only recommend having a look. The revamped features in Zoom are for my work within the CoP amazing. The AI minute taking is better than anything I've experienced from any other platform like Otter or else, and it's all integrated. What clearly has some other issues, but it is as a tool, as a toolbox, is a great thing these days.
And Frank, the sticky notes on the right, those are just additional ones, or do you want us to put something there also?
No, if people need more, like if the
Okay.
the 9 that are there are too few, we can drag and drop them down.
And is there another board for where we capture our interest if we're interested in being involved, or do we do that on the green?
No, that comes later. We have
Okay.
multiple boards. This is just to get us our conversation started to see what we should consider, because yeah, it will possibly drive the further conversation.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Sorry, I'm just, okay. Just had to respond to a few chat messages. So I think I'm trying to respond as much as I can, but some things I probably can't respond on the spot. So the point about making sure that we look at other training and similar and other training networks, and absolutely agree. This is part of what we said, what I said earlier on, that we want to learn from. We don't want to reinvent the wheel and come up with something new, but look really broadly. And we will, in a second step, if people have already suggestions on where we should look, we have another exercise to help us put us in the right direction and learn about those networks, because we all only know so little and we know more as a community. So that aspect, absolutely. Similar to the comment about broader community development and planning, like, yes, we want to look at what worked in other ways, in other circumstances, and consider it all. So that is no question. And the points, the three post-it notes that are on the left column of the cons, and the deal in particular with the worry about fitting the ideals and the perspective within the conservation paradigm, and talking for indigenous people and things like that. Those are all super valid points, and those are all actually the reasons why we think it is worthwhile engaging in that space to a degree, because they are risks, they are absolute real and correct. But if we don't provide a way forward, or we feel not engaging in this space is more dangerous than engaging and trying to come up at least with some guidance. So we are aware of the risks, and we need to navigate them very, very carefully in the process, in this project, and ensure that by proper inputs, they are valid, absolutely valid points. The question about funding, we have not been successful in finding funding for it, but it is something we will explore. I'm sorry, Ash, you raised your hand. Is there something? Please turn on your microphone and just speak as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt your thought there, but yeah, I was just wondering, like, because the question is specifically about a training course, and I was wondering, I asked that question in gray below, if there are already resources that are current and up to date that would be used for that course, and that kind of maybe dovetails with the funding point. And Erica might be able to resonate with me on this, like having developed some courses that we had a lot of demand for, and we put all this energy into, and we had a little bit of funding for. Now we don't get many people attending them, unfortunately. But the resources from the courses have been really helpful, and that's alone worth sharing. So I'm just curious, like, where things stand currently and just trying to share some, some learnings from us trying to create courses for things and making sure tools are being used.
Sure. Thanks heaps, Ash. A great point. And please, anyone else from the committee chime in as well. We, in a way, we're not starting from scratch because we have experience in different regions. We just haven't found the common denominator. So we want to use some of the material, like the materials and some of the positive learnings we had from in Australia, for example, and that worked in other regions in the world, to help us inform and start from there. It's kind of it's hard for us at the moment to gauge how much we need to adjust everything versus how much we need to adjust specific things. But at the moment, the thinking is that we build on the experiences from Latin America, Oceania, North America, and Australia, and then use those outputs to help us inform other things. We totally agree with, we think you're totally right on your comment about is it worthwhile from an investment? I think the training materials, and that's what's leading us to the point of saying, is this worthwhile considering doing? We agree with that training materials are important because they will guide us going forward, and not doing anything will probably cause more hurdles along the way and more complications. So yes, we do think that the training necessarily will not justify it itself, but the training materials will help bring justification to the course. All right. Is there anything that you guys would like to add here? Because I'm aware we have only 20 more minutes, and to respond as well to Leah's comment, I would like to kind of jump to the next whiteboard. Is there anything you would like to bring up? Okay. Are you guys happy for me to jump on the second whiteboard to give you some more opportunities? How do I actually go to the next whiteboard? There we go. So this second whiteboard is kind of just trying to help us figure out and learn from you if you have any thoughts, any ideas regarding those three questions. And you brought them already partially up in your response beforehand. Are there certain planning tools and certain things that you reckon we should definitely keep in mind so that we're not reinventing the wheels? Use any of the purple colored post-it notes and type things down if you want to send us into a certain directions. Do you know of existing networks that you think, and those are learning networks, community development networks, that you think we should benefit from reaching out to? Let us know. We are more than happy to knock on their doors and look at them and consider them.
Frank,
And
just a quick note, just to be sure that folks are aware that we are turning the page to page 2 now, so you can navigate.
Oh, sorry.
In my screen, it's showing on top, and you can choose the pages. I guess it's different for each user if the user is following the moderator or not. So you might want to choose page number 2.
Oh, thank you so much.
Choose again to follow the moderator and then diverge from that when you get to the next page.
Thank you so much, Gustavo. That is super helpful. I thought it would have changed for all of us when I changed the whiteboard here. My bad. clearly not as experienced in Zoom as I pretend to be. Yeah, thanks for the positive feedback, Ash, but I think I need to learn a bit more about Zoom myself. And yeah, sorry, and the last thing before is there anyone that you think we should engage with and reach out to? Like, as I said, our premise is we are trying to do things in an inclusive manner. But if you know of an individual or an organization or something that you say this should be, they should be involved, let us know. We will try our best to reach out. Yeah, and commenting some of those things, certainly we will reach out within the CCNet or the conservation standards world and engage individuals and networks like CMP and specific CCNet regional networks, like let's say the Latin America network if necessary, and equally like the teaching adaptive management folks and talking to them and to learn about their learning experiences definitely as well helpful to inform and that we're learning from each other.
Frank, the purple, what planning tools should we consider? Are you also looking for what training tools? Like if you're talking about developing a set of training materials in a course?
Sure. The
Yeah.
add it to it if you have specific, like we were like the thinking came from when we done our previous research we had often, and this came in particular from North America and from Canada, that there has been already pre-existing and predating any other things, like many really functional tools that communities developed up there that we should consider including. But if it is more about the learning approach as well, more than happy, like the more information we have and the more direction we have from people, the more helpful it is. So I'd say jot it down. And we equally appreciate we have only a small subset of people and we don't to make that the exclusive club. After this call, we will share the YouTube recording and we will export or will type up those outputs into a 3-page or something like that to share with everyone who subscribed and who wants to inform more. They can look it up on our homepage as well. So yeah, making sure that we give as many people an opportunity. It's just super good to see how much you're typing here at the moment, because this will make our life so much easier, because this is a very good pathway of crowdsourcing knowledge from experienced conservation coaches. So thank you. Just because I see somebody is typing at the moment about exchanges, we know the message and we heard it many times. We always struggled with finding funding for exchanges because that is, well, we have generally problems finding funding, but for exchanges as well. But there is, if this is somebody writing who lives in the Pacific area and who wrote this note, the Department of Foreign Affairs in Australia is offering funding for international exchanges of Indigenous delegations. And we shared that as well through our LinkedIn posts. So there is not something we are involved in, but there is an opportunity at the moment to access some funding for exchanges in the Pacific region between Australia and other countries bordering the Pacific. How are we all going? Do you guys need some more time typing on this whiteboard? Because otherwise, since we have only 8 more minutes left, I would jump to the next whiteboard where we collect interest and where you can jot down your emails if you want us to keep you in touch, to keep you involved and to stay in touch and everything. Yeah, Vanessa?
Question. Will you be able to share some of these responses? Will you be kind of synthesizing them and just sharing out to the group here?
Yeah, that's yes, I will type them all up because I think I can make a whiteboard export as well, but it will be hard to read. So I'm gonna type everything up and share it together with a recording of the webinar afterwards with everyone who subscribed and everyone in the CoP and everyone outside. I guess that's why we're trying to get emails to make sure we're not humbugging people with information.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks heaps, Erica. We're knocking on Gina's door, but she's a very wanted woman who has a lot on her shoulders. But we'll try to find and to get her definitely involved, or get a suggestion from her on who to be involved with. If this is okay with you, I will jump.
Frank, Vanessa has her hand up.
Oh yeah, sorry, Vanessa.
Just my legacy hand raised.
Thanks. I thought so. I'm jumping now to the third whiteboard. And with that whiteboard, we're trying to get from you guys an idea of whether you want to be involved and how much you think you can be involved. Because there are different levels of involvement, clearly. And this is a little bit related to the funding question, because this is a voluntary thing we're all doing as part of CCNet at the moment. I cannot be a judge to know how much time you can set aside to participate in developing those materials. Our really broad thinking so far has been that there is 2 kinder roles, but that could be purely because we haven't thought well enough and there's more kinder roles. So what we want you to do with this table is, if you can type down your email in the first big column, as somebody already is doing. If you think you want to be really heavily involved and you be in a core planning team, we would call it, just take maybe one, either make a cross or take one of those little polygons that are diamond things that are on the top and drag them into the right column. As a second kind of a degree of involvement, I guess, is like maybe it's only being involved in the workshops. I cannot foresee that we can develop anything without workshops. I know it is preposterous to say that for now, but since we will have workshops, maybe only workshop involvement is something you can justify in your role. But it could be as well, and you've got the gist of the table, that you have other ideas how you think you want to be involved. And please add those as well. As I said, this is an explorative exercise to see what we can wrangle and what is feasible. And yet again, I'm absolutely pleased with everyone typing so wildly around, and this is great. It seems to actually work, and we seem to get some good feedback from you guys. Thank you so much. So we're nearing the hour. This has been super useful. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. The silly season is in full swing, so I know how busy everyone is, and it's much appreciated that you found the time. And I'm glad that you provided us with feedback and some important things to consider. I'll keep the whiteboards up for a bit longer. I don't have to run exactly at 10, but for all of those of you, sorry, 10 o'clock my time. But for all of those of you who have to run to next appointments and get other things done, thank you very, very much. As I said earlier, I will synthesize everything in the coming days. I try to be as quick as possible and send an email to everyone with the outcomes from your feedback and with some of our thinking. I'll get it out to you before Christmas. I cannot say right now which date exactly. And then we'll take it from there. No question, there will be more meetings, more workshops, more discussions, and we'll keep you posted. And if you follow us on LinkedIn and you subscribe to our email listserv, we'll keep you posted about upcoming online gatherings to talk about this project and to make a decision on how we proceed.